an amazing end to this arc, with that twist that actually sees Yuhi becoming Otes. Giving an episode full of twists, turns and information, so let's talk about it. Hello everyone and welcome to Dueling with Downton, and today we're talking all things episode 127 of the Yugioh Go Rush anime series. An episode that was very much enjoyable from start to finish, that also helps to explain a couple of things, so without further delay, let's dive in. Starting off, I love seeing how we continue to grow the connection between Yudias and Kaido. Their funny interaction after Yudias explains that he'll become Otes, which is joyful and quirky, but really sweet. But the really sweet thing about their connection is that after talking about the possibility of Monster Reborn working and sealing Yudias' memories, we hear Kaido saying that he'll hold on to Yudias' memories, keeping them close to him so that he'll always have a way to restore them. Ultimately, it doesn't work for Yudias, as he does not become Otes in this episode and keeps all of his memories intact. But still, this little sort of quote and action from Kaido just shows how close and appreciative and respectful the two characters are towards each other. But yeah, Yudias, he didn't become Otes, but he did have some very bad acting skills / performances. However, the more interesting thing about Yudias' character from this episode now is seeing how he's going to react after failing to save both Yuhi and Yuamu. After all, Yuhi now has no memories. All of those precious times they spent together, gone. Yuhi and Yudias were rivals, and better yet, they were friends, learning from each other and growing from each other. Now Yudias is without him, so will he be travelling to find a way to reverse the effects of Monster Reborn and get Yuhi back? After all, I'm pretty sure we had a Monster Reborn counter in Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, or will he try to continue the legacy of UTS and getting the Bulgarians back? We don't actually see him at the end of this episode in those end credits, so it'll be interesting to see what he's actually doing or how he's actually thinking after this duel. Plus, I think guilt will weigh heavier on Yudias, knowing that he kinda helped Yuhi win by Yuhi using Transit Grindamu to essentially triple contact fusion with. As a side note, had Yudias become Otes, it would have been a great connection to the type of cards that he uses, as his Galaxy cards all have a theme / link to the idea of memory loss. But before we move on, I do want to say the animation for Yudias' segment here was absolutely amazing. And it did get me a little bit fooled into thinking that it had actually worked for Yudias, as that montage of his memories flashing back and fading away was so heartwarming and sweet that it did tug on the emotional strings. Now, throughout the opening that we've seen through many episodes, we get a section where Yuhi is chasing Yuamu as she's falling down. But in this episode, the roles are reversed, as Yuhi is the one falling as he loses his memories, with Yuamu desperately trying to reach him with no avail. Yet seeing him slowly forgetting even his sister was heartbreaking, and I loved the way they executed this. Seeing how Yuamu wasn't fully prepared for the mission, as she too still held a bit of fear in losing her brother, as well as some doubts about what she was actually doing. And all of this came to fruition and grew closer after the attack from Yudias knocked the confidence out of her, causing Yuhi to step up and be the big brother that she needs, and taking her place in this duel and in the role of becoming Otes. More on Yuhi in just a moment, but first, I liked how we learned more about the dark power that is bestowed upon the Dark Matter Empire when a member of their group defeats a member of the Light. This informational segment helps to explain how the substance works with Monster Reborn to help perfect the memory sealing abilities of said card. But also, it also explains how Yuamu learned how to gain the powers of the Dark Meister, as well as the ability to actually do what she is set out to do. Now, another thing I loved about this segment was the showcasing of the connection between Yuamu and, I think it's Kayama, the cat, as this went into more depth. And it was a really sweet, heartwarming segment as we see the two comfort each other while they're alone in the dark matter zone, as well as throughout the present day. We've seen a lot of examples of this. They are always together, and even at the end of this episode in those closing credits, we don't see any other dark men besides Yuamu and her cat. Okay, it's completely understandable for Yuamu and this cat to have that connection, as it saved her mentally from going insane while alone in that dark matter zone. So there's that connection. But returning to Yuamu's character, I like seeing how she's still worried and saddened by Yuhi turning into Otes, as she's now experiencing what Yuhi would have gone through had she been successful in becoming Otes herself if the roles were swapped. But had Yuamu become Otes, I don't think Yuhi would be standing at the top of Goha Tower with her and Yuna. Instead, I think Yuhi would probably have reverted back to his Season 2 persona and gone off and hidden somewhere and quit dueling for good. So yeah, from Yuamu's character at the end, it was great seeing this sort of sense of guilt and this sense of longing for her brother to return. Right then, Yuhi stepping up and taking his sister's place. Honestly, I respect that Yuhi's character really grew in terms of credibility within this episode, for me personally. Because I've not been the biggest Yuhi fan, but within this episode, it did wonders for him. I love seeing that look of resolve and confidence and fire within his eyes as he stepped up to the plate to do what he needs to do. That callback to the first duel between Yuhi and Udias, where they referenced Udias winning with Transit Grindamu, only for then Yuhi to use the same monster as one of the 3 materials for that triple contact fusion, was just magical. Yuhi knowing how to use Yuamu's deck makes sense as well, as they are twins and have that mental connection. We've seen them duel each other on quite a few occasions, and of course they've used each other's cards in different circumstances and experiences, so they're used to that type of thing. Seeing the black coat of Otes tells me that this transformation still is incomplete, as we're used to seeing Otes in the white. Both Yudias and Yuamu should know this, so could it be a hint at another Otes candidate appearing soon? Nevertheless, this was an awesome looking design, and I really do like the black coat. I think it looks better than the red one. Plus, Otes has that signature goofiness, as well as a laugh that we kind of associate with the character. Of course, the laugh and the name change for Goha is synonymous with the character of Dole, aka President Drone, or Goha President, yet Otis' laugh does seem a bit more goofy and more Yuhi-like, so I do like that we're still changing Yuhi, but keeping a bit about him that we already know. One thing that I do want to explore moving forward though, in relation to the twins, is whether or not that telepathic connection is still there. If so, this would mean that a little bit of Yuhi is still within his mind. It's either that, or it just makes it easier to send memories / thoughts to Otis when Yuamu's thinking about how the future needs to play out in that predetermined plot thread that they want to go for. Another thing, when in the Dark Matter Zone flashback, we hear Yuamu calling the Dark Power a Dark Matter Earthdemar. And I love this, as it does kind of mean that they foreshadowed Yuhi becoming Otis, I think in like Season 1 or early Season 2. As we know that Yuhi has Earthdemar because of Danamu, as well as we have a scene, I'm pretty sure, of Earthdemar splitting off of Otis. So, pretty big connection there. Or, not Otis, but the creator. Seeing the space group destroy Rush Robot was pretty cool as well, and it does help to make it so that there's not one in the future, which helps keep the timeline flowing like it should do. The monsters looked incredible. Seeing Yudias using a dark matter fusion was sick and surprising. I honestly did not expect that. And the triple contact fusion looked incredible as well, had a very overpowered ability, and overall the music within this episode was a massive highlight for me. The animation, the music, this helped to add to that emotional side of the episode. and thus making you sad when Udias was losing his memories, when Yuki lost his memories, when they're talking about Goha renaming, loads of different times within this episode. I felt myself drawn in, I felt myself engaged, and I absolutely loved that aspect of it. So I'm hyped to see what's going to happen moving forward as we look towards the future in Go Rush. Let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments down below and what you thought of this arc. Other than that though, I hope you have an amazing day. Alligator, matane, goodbye.